listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
Hey everyone, what is going on? And welcome to episode 150 of the Straight to Video podcast. It's almost Christmas and this is the final episode of 2021 before I nip off for the holidays and a couple of weeks away from the show. 150 episodes is a lot of chats, and I hope you've enjoyed all the ones you've had a chance to listen to, because it's been fun connecting with all these people and hearing their stories and journeys. Really no idea where things will be this time next year, and that's kind of an exciting thought. And outside of this show, I hope an optimistic one with everything that's happening around the world, but I'm staying positive that things are all on the up for you, me, and everyone out there. So, what do I do when the podcast hits a landmark episode right before Christmas time? Well, I check in with one of my favourite people on the planet and chat all about their Christmas memories. That's what we do. On today's show, I speak to Bowling for Soup singer, podcast host and voice of Chuck E. Cheese, Mr. Jaret Reddick from his home in Texas. All about growing up, his favourite Christmas gifts as a kid, right through to owning a chain of toy stores before the band broke big and how Christmas was in those, along with being a dad today and how Christmas is now. If you're familiar with Jaret and his band or listened to my earlier chat with him right when this show started, you'll know what fun he always is, and this episode is no different. You'll hear that I mentioned to Jaret that I maybe should have sent him my questions beforehand for him to have a think on them, but it would have made zero difference. If that would have happened to me, I would have drawn a total blank, but Jaret thrives at this stuff, and as you'll hear, he has so many stories and memories it always makes for a great listen. Before we get into the chat, one last time in 2021, please show some love to my friends Dead Skull Coffee for supporting this show since they themselves originally launched. It's been amazing to watch them grow and see the success they've been having with their excellent ground or full bean rock and roll coffee, and they continue to offer you, the listener, 15% off any order from their store. So please, if you can, visit deadskullcoffee.co.uk, add the discount code STV on checkout and grab that sweet money off. I want to wish Richie and Mark all the very best for 2022 and beyond. And of course, to everyone over on the Straight to Video Patreon page, thank you so much for the support you've shown this year. I hope it's been fun with all the extra content I've been sharing. There's a brand new podcast of the Straight to Video Movie Club up online now, where myself and Bradley Mabbott discuss the ultimate science fiction pantomime that is 1980s Flash Gordon. As you'll hear, I loved revisiting that film as it was so much fun and became a fan all over again. If you too would like to get extra access to this show and support it just a little more, then please visit patreon.com/STVpod for all the info you need. Alright, let's get to it. It's Christmas time. Jaret and Bowling for Soup will be back out on tour here in the UK next April with Lit and the Dolly Rots, and you can check out Jaret's brilliant podcasts, Jaret Goes to the Movies and the Rockstar Dad Show, wherever you listen to your shows. But right now, let's get into the Christmas mood and celebrate episode 150 of this show as we dive into my straight-to-video chat with Jaret Reddick.
I spent $1 on some gum at the corner store on Christmas. I hit the corner store on Christmas Day. And as my friend Gary Wiseman used to always say, if it's convenient you want, then you're gonna have to pay. $2 on some lottery tickets and $1 on some gum at the corner store on Christmas. I hit the corner store on Christmas Day. And as my friend Gary Wiseman used to always say, if it's convenient you want, then you're gonna have to pay. $3 on some balm for my lips, $2 on some lottery tickets, and $1 on some gum at the corner store on Christmas. I hit the corner store on Christmas Day. And as my friend Gary Wiseman used to always say, if it's convenient you want, then you're gonna have to pay. $4 on a sandwich for the ride home, $3 on some balm for my lips, $2 on some lottery tickets, and $1 on some gum at the corner store on Christmas.
Okay, you should wait.
You got me?
Let me figure this out. What's going on? I cleaned my studio. I should never do that. Oh, I know what it is. Boom.
Yeah?
Gotcha.
Oh, yes.
All right. Sorry about that.
Thank you for doing this and dropping on it
Yes,
so
of
soon. I just thought
course.
it'd be a cool way to end the year and do a Christmas-themed one. I should have sent you some questions ahead of time.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have read them anyway. I like it off the cuff, man. You know me.
So do you remember when like the Christmas season began when you were growing up? Because now it seems to be like super early, like in October.
Yeah.
It was a lot later back then. What signaled it off? In recent years, we always say it was when the Coca-Cola lorry commercial came on.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny because I think that's true. I mean, it definitely didn't start until after Halloween back in the day. And now I feel like you start to see commercials as early as September. And, and Halloween's a really big deal over here. So the stores all have their Halloween stuff out and then it's overnight. And I feel like Thanksgiving, which is, obviously another holiday here. And I know you guys don't have it in the UK, but everybody knows what it is. It sort of gets sidestepped now. Like it just goes Halloween to Christmas. But it's funny. I think that people see that as being this retail grab more than anything. But I have to admit, man, I like it. I like the Christmas season. I think it makes everybody just a little bit not everybody, but a lot of people, unless you're fighting over a Cabbage Patch Kid,
Straight back to 1980, what? 3.
Well, it's so funny. I just watched this movie last night with Everett and Casey called 8-Bit Christmas. And the whole thing is about this kid trying to get a Nintendo. And the cast is great. The kid actors are awesome. And just so many references to back then. It's great. Recommended.
So I think I saw the trailer for that a while ago. And it looked really good.
Neil Patrick Harris is in it. And like I said, Steve Zahn plays the dad. And he's always great. Definitely. But yeah, I definitely see your point that it starts earlier. But, then when I got to be a teenager, I had the toy store. And, we put those Christmas decorations up, and we opened the satellite stores that we had. We opened October 1st, so we were in it. The minute the malls and things like that started playing Christmas music it was music to our ears, literally, because it was like, okay, people are going to get in the mood now and they're going to come in here and they're going to buy stuff. But yeah, it definitely sort of seems like it's coming earlier and earlier every year.
I was going to ask about the toy stores. How was Christmas in those? Was there any particular crazes?
For sure. I mean, several. I mean, I had them from the time I was 17 until I was around 23, 24. So, the big ones were Talking Barney was a really big one. Power Rangers, huge. I mean, that thing was, it was bonkers. And it just sort of came out of it. Pogs. I don't know if you guys had those over there.
I never knew what you had to do with them, but everyone collected them.
Right. Well, the thing about Pogs was most of those name brand things were very hard for me to compete. It was very hard for me to, first of all, I couldn't afford to buy the quantities that like Walmart and Target and Toys R Us did. So I really honestly, those stores sell things like that sometimes below their cost just to get you in there. So you'll buy a blender and a hand towel, because that's where they're making their money. And, that's business. I get it. But it's very hard for a store like mine to compete in that, which really, at the end of the day, sort of drove us out of business, as video games really, really got more and more popular. But Pogs was something that was our niche, because those stores couldn't do that. You couldn't just have these little cardboard circles out and just let people dig through them and stuff. So I went and got 3 11-foot horse troughs and filled these things. It went the whole length of our store. And it was a real long store. And I just filled it up. And most of them were the really cheap ones, but then I'd pour really, really good ones in there and collectibles and foils. And so on any given Saturday, Sunday, all that 33 feet, both sides, just kids and their parents digging through those things, which then was great.
Just fucking Pogs flying everywhere.
Yeah. Right now it sounds like a freaking COVID nightmare, but that's the world we live in. But that craze was a really good one. The Talking Elmo thing was a good one. Oh, Holiday Barbie was a really big one. And then My Size Barbie, they came up with this Barbie that was like 4 foot tall. That one was a huge. So, and Ninja Turtles were another craze that happened during my run. So quite a few, actually. It seemed like every year there was something. I think the first one was Baby Alive. I think that's like when I was still a kid and we were, I wasn't doing it we just had the one store or whatever. And really, we were just kind of selling. And so we were really just selling bikes and skateboards. So what we would do is we would go to other stores and find these things and then mark them up, $2 and then just resell them.
Just to get the people through the door and stuff.
Well, just so that we could say we had it. We had to legitimize what we had. And honestly, that's how we did like Ninja Turtles and things like that. We would go and come down to Dallas or whatever and go into the store and buy them for $3.99 and then we'd sell them for $4.50. It was just whatever you could do because people will come in the door and they'll go, hey, do you have this? And if you say no, they turn around and walk out. But if they, let me show you where it is. And they have to pass by all this stuff. And where we made almost all of our money was stocking stuffers, because again, we could have all of these things that were $1, $2 that people could pick through and play with and spin and yo-yos and, just things like that. Noisemakers, switchblade combs. Those big retailers can't have that stuff out because people will just steal it. And so they couldn't compete with us on that. So you would literally have people coming into the store buying $200 worth of 99-cent shit. Of course, now they have those stores, right? Like the 99-cent stores and stuff. But back then, that was fun. But again, that was the idea. Get them in to buy that, Raphael, and then they leave with the Chinese handcuffs. And, I'm not sure you can say that anymore.
Probably not.
But that's what they were. I mean, it says it on the package. Finger handcuffs, I guess. I don't even know.
Did you ever have a Santa Claus, like a mall Santa Claus in your store?
No, we didn't. But we did a bunch of different events and things like that. But like someone making an appearance, we never did that. I don't honestly know why we never thought to do that. Maybe it was just, I don't know. I mean, this is, 88 through, 94-ish. I don't know. I don't know why we didn't do that. It definitely seems like it would have been good. I do know that like the way that we would get our locations was we would go. So we had the one that was open all the time. And then we had these other ones that we would just open up in different cities. And the way we would get them was we would just go find an empty spot and then just go to and be like, look, you're not going to lease this thing in the next 3 months. We'll give you this much for it.
Like a Spirit Halloween kind of thing.
100%. Yep. That kind of vibe. In fact, that's exactly what we were.
They stole your idea.
They stole somebody sunk a bunch of money into it and figured it out. Man, bastards. But yeah, a lot of times though, we would get as close to where the Santa Claus was as possible if we were in a mall or whatever. But for the most part, we were usually in strip centers, which you guys have them too. I mean, it's just basically just a strip of things and there's a kebab shop in the middle or a coffee shop or whatever.
What did you do at school leading up to Christmas? Was it a big deal? Like, did you do like a nativity play or like a last day of school party or anything like that?
School was, you always had a Christmas party. In fact, Everett's is coming up on Friday and I was going to volunteer to help with it. And Casey goes, well, you better ask him because he's kind of embarrassed of us these days. And
oh, no.
But apparently when she said, hey, your dad wants to do this, he was like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. So I don't know if her feelings might have been hurt a smidge, but same kind of thing. You have this holiday party. I mean, again, it's ever changing because of whatever. I mean, but now, the kids get a half a day before they go out for break and they have a party and they give them chicken nuggets and they do a craft and then they head out. I mean, it was like that with us too. It's kind of like anything, I think, where like you're leading up to Christmas vacation, really you shouldn't even go the last 2 days because nobody's doing anything anyway.
No, your brain's not in that gear or that mode.
Everybody's just done. But yeah, I remember, you'd always have a fun little Christmas party. So when I was in elementary school, each grade put on a different play for the PTA, or the Parents Association, or just the parents in general, like each time they would meet or whatever. And so one grade would get the Christmas one, and then one grade would do the, Thanksgiving or whatever it was. And I think for Christmas, we didn't really do nativity because, I grew up in the 80s. So like church and state, really didn't mix all that well. It was like when they were taking I don't know if you want to get into that on your podcast, but it was like, they were separating all of that, which is fine with me. Right. So I think what we did, our play, the one that I can remember was we did just like Christmas around the world. I dressed up actually as someone from Mexico. And I came out and I talked about.
You couldn't do any of this now.
You couldn't. There's no possible way that you could do it now. I literally came out dressed as a Mexican person and was just like, Buenos dias. And like everybody was like, Buenos dias. And like, no, I mean, you're right. I don't know if it would fly these days. Who knows? I mean, it was, we were little kids dressed up and stuff. I feel like you're right, though. Like, my son and daughter both did the Barnyard Musical. And I feel like their kids aren't going to be able to do the Barnyard Musical because they're going to be like, you can't dress up as a sheep because the sheep, we can't do that. This is offensive to the sheep. You know
it's going that way. It's heading that way.
It's got to. It's at some point, and in no way do I mean this to be targeted towards any of this fucking shit, but at some point we got to draw the line and be like, okay, guys, like, some of this is just getting a little ridiculous.
Oh, I love it.
Who knows when we get, is it like that over there too? Like, is everybody just, we can't offend anybody. And I don't even know why I asked that. I feel like you guys have been you're more like that than we are.
Probably. I don't know. It's weird. Everyone's just got an echo chamber now, especially with online. That's where it is. And it just spreads.
It's funny. It's like usually when I'm going to say this so generally that it won't fuck up your show, but almost always when someone is pissed off about something, they don't even belong to the group that they're pissed off about them being offended. And then that group is over there going, we're actually fine with this. This is not that big of a deal. Y'all can put your signs down. Everything was great until you guys showed up. And now everybody's pissed.
So before the toy stores, what was your Christmas catalog for picking out toys? Or did you go to a particular one?
Oh, man.
When you said, what do you want for Christmas?
Mine was either Sears or JCPenney's catalog. And if you're too young to remember those, and most people probably are, I mean, the JCPenney's and Sears catalog were these monster books. And in them lived everything. It wasn't even stuff that they had in the stores. Like, you'd go to JCPenney's and they didn't even have a toy section. Sears would have like a really small one. But in the catalog was everything. That was how people merchandised back then. So it was catalog sales and things because they didn't stock everything that they put on the order. It's kind of like when you go to Best Buy or like whatever website you go to now, and they're like, this is not available in store or whatever. It's the same principle. My brother and I would go through with a different color pen in my grandma's house, and we could circle everything that we wanted. And, my grandmother would try to make most of that happen. My parents would also participate. It was good. That was a really big deal, though, that when that Christmas catalog came and we would visit my grandmother and she'd be like, okay, guys, it's time to go through this catalog and circle what you want. A lot of times you had seen most of it on television. They would release all these new toys around then. And so sometimes you were seeing it for the first time, or some kid down the street had.
What was you into? Was you like a Star Wars kid?
Yeah. So here's the thing with me. And I was such a weird kid because I had some of those things, but I didn't really play Star Wars. I mean, I had some Star Wars figures, but I'm going to be honest, like I usually ended up putting them on the fence and shooting them with the slingshot, or trying to make a parachute, and send Han Solo flying or whatever. I played with fire sometimes, like we were really into just being outside, played a lot of sports. We played a lot of football in the street and wiffle ball and kickball and things like that. It was all very organized. We rode our bikes a lot. We made jumps. We built forts, that kind of things. I had friends that were into all that, but like I had a few figurines, a few figures and things like that, but I didn't like have the vehicles, and I just never really got into all that.
No G.I. Joe.
No, Miss G.I. Joe completely. But that was going on in my childhood. Again, it just wasn't what I was into. I was more into like, sports and, things that would get me into trouble, blow dart guns and slingshots and BB guns and shit.
What was the craziest toy you used to play with? I was just speaking to somebody the other day. We used to get like proper darts with like the proper steel point and just throw them up into the air. Just, like, get out of the way.
Oh, man. So we did some pretty crazy stuff. We actually figured out how to make toothpicks into darts that our pellet guns would shoot. And we would put on like big jackets and like have full on wars, like don't aim for the face,
like, bring it on.
And so, just the crazy stuff we did. And then, we'd do slingshots, but I don't know why these aren't everywhere now, but when I was a kid, everybody had this one sort of spiny bush in their flower beds that did these little berries. And at first the berries would be like green. You couldn't eat them or anything. And those green ones are really, really hard. So you could shoot your friend with those and it would sting. But then they would ripen and you'd have to be careful how hard you squeezed it with your slingshot. Then you would shoot it and it would explode on the kid.
Just stain all the clothes.
Oh, everything.
The moms are going crazy.
Or you could shoot cars and, but it was that kind of thing. Huge games of hide and go seek. My brother did end up getting me a blow dart gun, like an actual South American blow dart gun. But my mom bought me one at the flea market. Like, it's crazy what our parents would buy us back then. And like, this seems like a very good thing to buy you. And I just had this blow dart gun.
Just be careful with it. As long as they said, just be careful with it.
Yeah. Well, we made homemade nunchucks. I still remember how we did that. And that was in the 4th grade. We were already, I can't imagine next year Everett having that kind of ability. But I was telling my wife this the other day. I could already like work on my bike when I was Everett's age. Like, I could change the tube, change the flat tire. I could fix the chain. All of those things you just learned to do because we all had 2 working parents. You know, you didn't have dads working from home and all of this. So like, we just learned to fix each other's bikes.
That's because you'd be on like a ride for about 10 miles and your chain had come off or something.
Exactly.
You got to figure out how to put it back in. You ain't getting.
You got to figure it out. You're right. I mean, man, back then, you know, it is really funny to think about that because nothing was ever too far. You just had to make sure you had enough time, you know, to get back before dark. But it was just like, well, we could ride over there. And you're right. Like 10 miles, that would have been nothing to us. I can't imagine, you know, my 3rd grader being even a half a mile away from our house.
No phone, no nothing. Just gone.
Nothing. No, just gone. You know, I'm sure they're fine. House key in the sock. You know, and that's and off on my way. Different time.
So Christmas Day and everything itself, did you have a routine on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning in the Reddick household?
Yeah, so we talk about this on the Rockstar Dad show a lot because, you know, I've been married a couple of times and everybody's Christmas is different and you sort of have to adapt to everybody's Christmas. But when you're a kid, for some reason, it never really dawned on me that everybody's was different. So we, in my house, we always opened up our presents on Christmas Eve night.
All of them.
All of them. And Santa had already wrapped our presents. And for some reason, it was in my mom's handwriting, you know, to Jaret loves Santa. Never questioned that ever. I mean, what an idiot I was. But yeah, and that was the thing. And then Christmas morning actually was kind of chill. And then sometimes we would go drive up to my grandmother's and we would do that Christmas there, unless they had come down the night before and brought it all or whatever. But yeah, Christmas Day usually was pretty relaxed and stuff. We never did the thing where both my family now and then with my ex and my 2 older children, where they wake up on Christmas morning and there's just shit everywhere. And like some of the stuff is already put together and, you know, it's not wrapped. And that is sort of, and that's how I've been doing things for the last 20 years because my daughter's about to turn 19. But yeah, so, you know, back then though, you know, you just opened it all on Christmas Eve. It was all wrapped and that was that. Never did the Christmas morning thing. I think it's because my parents like to sleep.
That's a good one. I was going to say, had you ever done the thing where, like, Christmas morning, kids are so excited about the presents, so they probably don't sleep that night and they want to get up as early as possible. And
right.
I was going to say, did you ever get up early and open your presents before your parents? Because I did that one time.
Oh, no.
And I got into big trouble.
Yeah, that's not good. That is not good. Man, this is semi-related, but not really related. Amy, who was on the Jaret Goes to the Movies podcast, has a story she tells where her and her brother opened and peeked at all their Christmas presents, which I used to do every year. In fact, I was so good at it that my brother, who was 5 years older than me, would have me do his too. But I could position the tape perfect so you could never tell that it had been disrupted and stuff. Well, her mom found out. And at Christmas, they got to open their presents and then they each got to choose one present to keep. And then she took all the rest of it and donated it to charity because they had been naughty, you know?
Yeah.
And,
wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, just the commitment of that, man. I mean, like I have a hard time punishing my kids for anything. Man, her mom really stood with it.
How old was she? Do you know?
Well, her brother's 3 or 4 years older than her. And I think he was like 11. So I think they were like 8 and 11.
She'd have been crushed by that.
Oh my God. Yeah. She's,
Wow.
I mean, obviously it's stuck with her forever.
Yeah.
And she swears that her brother put her up to it as well. So it's, fuck that guy.
My excuse was like, well, I said to my mum, well, I didn't want to wake you up.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't realize how important it was for a parent to see the kids opening the presents.
100%, man. And was it just you in the house?
Yeah, just me.
Well, and now my Christmas is even different because now we actually celebrate our Christmas Eve on the 23rd. So Jack and Emma come home. The 23rd, we do a dinner. We watch a Christmas movie, usually Elf or The Grinch or Vacation. And then everybody goes to bed. They all wake up and Santa comes to our house on the morning of Christmas Eve because he knows that Jack and Emma have to go home that night because they do Christmas at their mom's house on Christmas Day. So Everett is in the lucky category of Santa Claus coming one day early. And I think this is our last year, man. Like, he's 9. And I know that he's already doing the thing where he doesn't believe because he questions everything.
He just daren't take it that next stage.
Yeah, he's just, I think so. I think this is probably it for like the magic of it, which, my brother was 5 years older than me. So I don't even think I had it that long. I don't think I was 9 and still believed in Santa Claus, but I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe that's one thing that he didn't ruin for me.
Did Danny ever get a gift you always wanted? Like, damn, I wanted that.
That happened a lot because I always wanted what he had, because he was my older brother. And I think that actually is a really good, to throw back to the conversation from earlier. I think most of the time, the reason why I wasn't doing Star Wars and things like that is because I was really into whatever he was into. So he was into, do you remember, they still make them, but they're not as popular, but electric slot cars. You'd build the track and it was electric and you'd squeeze the trigger and your car would, you'd race and stuff.
We called them Scalextrics.
Okay. So, but you could really get into that. I mean, like, you could invest some serious money into it or whatever. And so, he was into that. And so, like, I kind of got into that. But yeah, I mean, you got to think by the time I was in, 6th grade, he was getting a car, like it just seemed like he was all, and then, years later, I would get that same kind of thing, but he paved the way for me though. I mean, like he never had a phone in his room and I had a landline in my room and he didn't have cable in his room and I did. And so, there's those things where he says, well, I got everything ready for you, but there was always something that he would get that I wasn't old enough to have that I wished I had. But my parents did a pretty good job, actually. My grandma too, of like kind of knowing what those presents were going to be and sort of getting me the younger version of it.
Right. Okay.
So like where he would get the slot car thing, I would get, say, a remote control car that had a wire, leading to it, which back then you didn't care that it wasn't radio control or whatever. But I pretty much grew up jealous of him. But, what the other thing was too that we would get, and I should have said this earlier, but the big thing that we would just get stuff for our bikes. Like we both had like really nice BMX, like racing bikes. And so, every year from, my grandmother would take it to the bike shop there and it'd be like, okay, we want new wheels or we want these new handlebars or, this kind of seat.
Just pimp that thing out.
Pimped it out. Oh man, we both had really, really cool bikes, man. And it was, that was definitely one of those things that I only did because he did it, so that took up a lot of my Christmases.
What BMX did you have?
I had a Mongoose 2.
Nice.
Yeah. So he had a Team Mongoose and I had a Mongoose 2. And then I ended up getting Z rims for it, which were the first fiberglass wheels. So it made it really, really light. He had alloy wheels on his but man, Oakley grips on there. And we had, all of the gooseneck you had to get was just the right one. And I wish I could remember what the seat was that I had, but Dyna-Race brakes and all of this stuff, were just like, they were really, really tricked out.
Did the movie BMX Bandits ever make it to the States? An Australian film?
It was out here, but I never saw it. I see that kind of come up online every once in a while and wonder what that was.
It's like Nicole Kidman's very first film, I think.
I mean, BMX was such a big deal. It's like if you think about Pee-wee's Big Adventure, his buddies in that are like the race team for whatever the thing, whatever product that was. And, BMX was a huge deal. There was a track in Wichita Falls and you could go we never were into that. I think he might have raced a couple of times, but he had a friend that raced all the time. That was really good. Not really my thing, but I was always scared of stuff like all the jumps and stuff. Like everybody would jump and like do tabletops and stuff. And I would just roll over the jump, like, hey.
Exactly. We used to have a BMX track, and before a BMX I had what we called a striker, which was just a regular bike, but it kind of looked like a BMX.
Yeah.
My mum will always tell the story where I went down and it was like the steepest ramp and you're supposed to hit that thing at speed, and I just kind of trundled up it and just went straight over the handlebars.
Oh no. Oh,
literally just dropped off the end.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah, that'll get you disinterested in BMX really quick. I wasn't so much of a crybaby as I was just not really that adventurous. I like to have fun, but I feel like there was always a caution light in my head going, that's gonna freaking hurt right there if you do that.
Do you have any video or photos from Christmas back in the day? I've got nothing.
Definitely lots of photos. I'm sure there's some videos somewhere. My grandpa had like, I don't even know, I guess 8mm or 16mm camera. So all of that stuff was taped back then, and my grandma's got all that stuff. It'd be cool to go back and watch this, but it was the thing where he'd have to like set up the projector, and our favorite thing was watching it backwards when it was all over, because he'd had to rewind it. He could turn the light on and you watch it backwards, and it's super, like you're wrapping the presents. But there's a picture of my brother and I that I put out every Christmas where I'm wearing my Terry Bradshaw Steelers jersey, and he's got his terry cloth shirt on, and we're digging into some presents and stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I could dig up. My mom kind of went through all of the photos back 10, 15 years ago and sort of just divided them up. Hey, here's all these photos. Like, they're just sitting in my closet. So I've got them somewhere.
And Bowling for Soup have done a couple of Christmas albums, Merry Flipping Christmas 1 and 2, and you've done Christmas stuff with Kelly from the Dolly Rots, and you did some stuff with MC Lars way back.
Yeah.
Which is some of the stuff you're most proud of, or just all of it?
Man, all of it. I got to tell you, I like those songs because they just come from such a cool place. To me, I think writing an original holiday song is pretty tough to not just go down that same rabbit hole. And the first one we did, Volume 1, Merry Flippin' Christmas Volume 1, was just all covers. And then I really wanted to just see if I could stretch it and really write something unique. And so Merry Flippin' Christmas 2 is mostly originals. A lot of rabbit holes to go down with me as far as the Christmas is concerned. And I think it's time for Bowling for Soup to do it again, actually. One of these days, one of them's got to catch on. Like I like listen to these, and I'll go and I'll listen to like the Christmas radio stations and stuff. And I'm like, how is Corner Store on Christmas not on this? It's like
genius song.
Well, thank you. I think so too, because it's legit. Like it's like literally all of the things that you forgot to get. You have to go to the one store that's open, and then here in the States, when you go to like the corner store, which is, a 7-Eleven or whatever, a racetrack, like batteries are super expensive, and like
you got to pay for these suckers.
Exactly.
We need more realistic Christmas songs like that.
Yeah. And then the other, even Santa Needs a Break sometimes. I really like that one by us too, because it's like nobody really talks about what Santa does throughout the year, and I send him on vacation. And my favorite lyric on that is he helps the Easter Bunny with calendar erasing, because the date of Easter Sunday is always changing, because Easter's always on a different day, and Santa's got to help him out because he shares a birthday with Jesus. I don't know how that works, actually. It's all gray.
How do you get your head in gear writing a Christmas song, though? Because you have to write it in advance.
Got to write it in the summer. And in fact, all of those Bowling for Soup songs were written on Warped Tour, which is the hottest you could ever be. And we were in Boise, Idaho, and I had to get this done because it was like, if you don't get this done now, it's not going to be out before Christmas. So we had a day off, which is very rare. And I just rented a hotel room for myself. And I went in at, 11 o'clock. And I came out at 7 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I wrote the album. Let's go see a movie, and that's literally how it went.
You shed some light on this for me, because I've spent a couple of Christmases in America. But one thing I've noticed, Christmas in the States, it seems to be over on December the 26th. Would you say that's true? We drag it on over here. We drag that sucker out.
Really? Okay. So a couple of things about that in America. It's bad luck to take your tree down before January 1st, but some people do it. Retail people are absolutely sick of it. Honestly, like the toy store really kind of took the fun out of Christmas for me for really till I had kids. I really didn't enjoy the music anymore. I just was over it, because that was just, the busiest time of my years. And I was going to college during the time, and it was just a lot of work, man. A lot of back breaking, a lot of loading trucks and feet hurting. And so until I had kids, it was kind of that. But anyway, so from a retail standpoint, you're just over it as well. And then plus on the 26th, which I think is a holiday for you guys, Boxing Day, right?
Boxing Day, yeah.
Here you have after Christmas sales, but it's also, and of course, I know everything's changing with everybody buying online now, but it's where the lines to return things is really, really long.
That's kind of depressing.
It really is. So it's either something that was missing a part, or something somebody doesn't like, or it didn't fit, or just for whatever reason. And it really is just the saddest line, like it looks like
saddest line.
It does. It looks like bread lines, like we're just, okay, it's come to this. We're waiting in line for bread now. And it's just horrible. And like, there's just shit like behind the poor workers. There's just all these just piles of just stuff, and I think most of the time that stuff just gets donated. Like, I think those big retailers or whatever, it's not worth their time to actually return most of that shit to the manufacturer. So it either gets destroyed, looked at, donated, whatever.
No one's checking through that for dog hairs and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely not. And by that being said, they're not going to stick that thing back on the shelf either. I mean, that's not going to happen. But yeah, it is kind of but yeah, we're definitely over it. How do you guys drag it out?
I always loved Boxing Day because you'd still have a great film to watch on Boxing Day. You had your Christmas Bond movie in the afternoon. It'd be a James Bond premiere in the afternoon. Everyone would gather around the TV to watch the James Bond film from about 3 years before. It was the first time on TV. But Boxing Day was just the same thing. Just carried on over. Great films on the TV. And then you got that gap in between Christmas and New Year. Crimbo limbo.
So that's the thing, because you guys, as far as like national TV, you're fairly limited on like how many channels you have or whatever.
It used to be, yeah.
You're saying that like they would specifically take those days and first time on TV, this movie, and then this movie and this movie. That's cool. That happens here too, but it has been a really long time.
You guys work a lot harder than we do, though. Over here, lots of places close for like the entire Christmas period. But for you guys, it's like straight back to work.
Oh, yeah, you're straight back. Not all restaurants even close the entire day. Like some of them will close at, say, 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and then they're open 4 o'clock on Christmas Day or whatever. Like Walmart stays open the whole time. I mean,
that's unreal. We have like a service station open, and that's about it on Christmas Day.
That is sort of one of the biggest adjustments that we have to make when we're in the UK, though, is that it seems like we're these spoiled Americans, but it's just what we're used to. Everything is just available all the time. There's never really a time where you can't get something that you need or whatever. Like, that's just not your culture. You guys are like, hey, it's time to get off work. It's time to get off work. We'll see you later, whatever.
It's changing, though. It's getting more.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see the good and the bad in it. I mean, over here, the argument is Walmart. I shouldn't keep calling out Walmart, but I mean, that's just, they're kind of the first ones to do all this shit, but it's like, okay, let's say restaurant. It sucks so bad. You make your employees work on Christmas Day. But what they don't understand is most of the time, literally 90% of the time, I would think it's like, hey, who wants to work on Christmas Day? And we're going to pay you extra or this and this and this. These are people that want to be working.
Mm-hmm. Hands will go up. I'm in.
100%. I mean, my daughter is a hostess at a country club here in Dallas, and she works the holidays because she makes insane tips. I mean, it's like Father's Day. I think they roll 1,000 tables through this thing, and she's like sitting half of them over the weekend. So that's the thing, right? It's like, look, people want to work. And quite frankly, sometimes you wake up on Christmas and you need a new pair of Dickies. So, they're they're there for you.
Sweet, man. I'll put you on the spot to wrap it up. Is there one thing you'd love to repeat again from back in the late 70s or 80s, or a particular feeling you'd love to relive?
There's a bunch of good ones, man. I will say that despite becoming an adult and looking back on all the shit that, wasn't amazing in your childhood, which, we all at some point, you either address it or you don't. And maybe I didn't need to say that before this, but what I'm saying is, as I look back, I had great Christmases. My parents were always great about it. My grandparents were always amazing about it. The fact that I'm a huge Steelers fan is is at least tied to the fact that for Christmas, my dad's family sent me Steelers stuff, and that's what I got. I still have my crocheted Jack Lambert doll down on the little Marshall mini stack right by the TV. He stays there all football season, and my aunt made me that in the second grade.
Wow, man.
But I will say that the most memorable was, and just the feeling of, I just don't know that I've ever felt this sort of excitement before. I started playing drums in the sixth grade. So I had played drums for a while, and I think this is about so I think I'm in eighth grade by this time this happens. And I'd asked for a new drum set. And up until then, I'd had this really badass Ludwig set, my first set, which I wish I still had. But at the time, stuff that was old, you didn't want anymore. You wanted new shit. And I look back going, oh my God, I wonder what that thing's worth these days. And I traded that up for a new shitty drum set that really was just terrible. It was called PTS, Pre-Tune Series. Remo made it. And essentially, you couldn't tune the drums. They were supposedly already tuned for you. So instead of the lugs, they just had these little buckles. And you would buckle that thing down, and it was supposed to just sound amazing. Well, it didn't. It was terrible.
Who was your guy back then?
It's just always been Tommy Lee. I don't know that I had a favorite drummer before Tommy Lee. I mean, I liked Tommy Aldridge already, and anybody that I would see on Headbangers Ball, but it was just so sporadic as far as like even reading, you had to buy magazines to even learn who played the drums for bands and shit. So Tommy Lee to me was always the rock star for me. So I got a white pearl drum set, because that's what he had. But how did I get that drum set? I asked for a drum set for Christmas. I picked it out, everything. Christmas happened. We had opened up all the presents we were going to open, and no drum set. So, I'm a thankful kid. I really wasn't a brat or anything. So, hey, I didn't get the drum set. I'm taking all my stuff, taking your loot back to your room, like you do. And just kind of, I guess I was a bit mopey, but, it's kind of like the Christmas Story, where they're like, did you get everything you want? Yeah, I got everything I wanted, And this horn starts honking outside. And my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is just honking out there, honking. And he's yelling out the window, Santa Claus is here. Santa Claus is here. And set up in the back of that pickup truck was a brand new white pearl drum set. I mean, I just gave myself chills thinking about it, because that feeling of just like, first of all, being so glad that I was appreciative of what I had before this, and not, one of those lessons in life as to like, hey, be thankful for what you have kind of thing, because you just never know. And then here this thing rolls up, and it was just like a dream, just seeing that thing and just couldn't believe it. And so that to me was definitely the coolest and most memorable thing that I ever at least got for Christmas. And then I would have to say a close second, third, and fourth would be all of my kids' first Christmases.
You're on the flip side then.
You're on the flip side then. And really, honestly, once I say that, I kind of don't mean it. It's really when they get to be about 3, when they actually understand what's going on. Their first Christmas, it's like, okay, cute photos where they don't give a shit. Really, it's kind of the same when they're 2. Once they get to be about 3, and then even 4, 5, 6, 7.
See that excitement.
Oh my God, it's just the best. So, I've spent a lot of time putting things together, the night before that. Go-karts and train tables and drum sets, multiple drum sets now. Doll houses, playhouses.
You got it down to fine art.
Well, the good news is I put all that shit together when I had the toy store. So I'm your guy.
Yeah, exactly.
If you need anything like that. And like I said, I've been working on bikes now for about 42 years. So I'm pretty good with those too.
Awesome, man. Jaret, thank you, mate. I appreciate you chatting with me about this. I've loved it.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it so much. And it's always good to see you. And congratulations, man, on your podcast. It's just so good and refreshing. And there's several highlights. My favorite still, I think, is the life, sex, and death, and just those stories and just that whole thing and the vibe. And
I've got about another hour and a half from that episode.
I bet
somewhere.
that dude, I think, it's funny. I talk, but that dude could talk.
He's a star. He's a legend. I think they've just reissued the LSD album on vinyl.
Have they? Oh, I got to tell the guys about that. We talk about covering that Some Fucking Shit Ass. We absolutely love that song. It's so good.
There's so much melody in those songs. Like they're so heavy, but they're so catchy. It's great.
So much melody. It's almost like the Enough's Enough stuff, where you don't realize just how much melody is packed into that until you really listen to the band, not just their singles. Well, anyway, congratulations, dude, on the podcast. And it's always a pleasure, man.
Thank you, mate. You guys have a lovely Christmas.
You too, brother. And say hey to Jane for me.
I will do.
Talk to you later.
All righty.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was super cheap beer. $11 on candy for the stockings, $10 on pretty flowers for mom, $9 on a quarter tank of gas, $8 on cookies for Saint Nick, $7 on Christmas paper plates, $6 on frosting for the Christmas cake, $5 on shaving cream and a comb, $4 on a sandwich for the ride home, $3 on some balm for my lips, $2 on some lottery tickets, and $1 on some gum at the corner store on Christmas. Oh man, forgot the batteries.
Thanks so much to Jaret for helping me celebrate episode 150 of this show. Hope you enjoyed that, and if you're familiar with him and his band, you'll know that what you hear is exactly what you get, and that's why he and the band have been so successful and loved over all these years. If you haven't checked out Bowling for Soup's music, then hopefully this chat will make you dive in. It's quite the history, and they're still going strong to this day. They'll be back on tour in the UK next April, and everything can be found over at bowlingforsoup.com. And if you want to add some more podcasts to your list, then check out Jaret Goes to the Movies and The Rockstar Dad Show. All 150 episodes of this show can be listened to over at stvpod.com, where you will also find some STV music, videos and merch, along with links to the Patreon page and a bunch more stuff. I hope you've seen or felt like this show is continually getting better. I'd like to think it is, but I'm always up for comments or suggestions about what you'd like to see, or perhaps more importantly hear, so feel free to hit me up at any time. Also, if you could spare a few minutes to maybe share the show, suggest it to your friends, or spread the word in any way, that would be awesome. Really gives me a buzz when someone comments that they've only just found the podcast and are diving into all the old episodes. So that's it for 2021. Hope you've maybe become a fan of a new band or checked out a film you missed after hearing one of these chats. I'll be back in January with lots more, but until then, truly hope you have a great Christmas, get some rest, have some fun, and I look forward to speaking to you all again real soon.